He can't be real, the bank manager said, staring at the $10 million check like it had offended her personally, and Ryan Whitaker knew right then this morning was about to get worse before it got better. He stood in the middle of Rivergate National wearing work boots dusted white from drywall, a faded thermal under a cheap brown jacket, and the kind of tired in his face that no amount of coffee could hide. In his left pocket was a folded list from the hospital with numbers he had already memorized. In his right was a plastic dinosaur Noah had shoved into his hand before sunrise, because 8-year-old boys still believed lucky things could change bad days. Ryan had smiled when his son gave it to him. He had even promised he would be back before lunch. He hated promises made to children when the world was run by adults with polished shoes and cold eyes. The lobby smelled like marble cleaner and burnt espresso from the kiosk near the entrance. A man in a navy suit kept glancing over his shoulder. An older woman stopped filling out her deposit slip just to watch. Ryan felt all of them taking his measure in the same lazy way people always did, starting with the jacket, ending with the boots, deciding the rest in between. Vanessa Cole didn't bother hiding it. She held the check between two fingers, her red nails bright against the paper, and gave him a smile so thin it looked expensive. Mr. Whitaker, people do not just walk in off the street with $10 million. Ryan kept his voice level. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking you to verify it. His phone buzzed in his pocket. St. Jude Wing. He didn't pull it out. Not yet. If that was pre-op calling early, every second suddenly mattered. Vanessa looked down at the routing line, then back at his face, and whatever she saw there only made her colder. You expect me to believe a man from West Hollow Apartments is holding a legal settlement check for $10 million? A few people in line shifted closer without meaning to. Ryan breathed once, slowly. Ma'am, if you mishandle that instrument, your bank is going to have a problem much bigger than me. That should have been the warning. It should have made someone pause. But Vanessa laughed. Softly, like he had just confirmed every ugly assumption she wanted to make, and Ryan realized the dangerous thing wasn't that she thought he was lying. It was that she had already decided a man who looked like him could never be telling the truth. Ryan should have answered the hospital call, but the look on Vanessa Cole's face told him the next 30 seconds might decide everything. His phone kept vibrating against the plastic dinosaur in his pocket, a small hard reminder that Noah was across town in a hospital gown too big for his narrow shoulders, probably swinging his legs from the side of the bed and pretending not to be scared. At 7 that morning, Ryan had stood in their tiny kitchen while the toaster clicked and the cheap apartment heater rattled like it might quit for good. Noah had pushed his plate away after 2 bites of waffle and asked, in that careful voice children use when they are trying to protect the adult in the room, whether surgery still counted as surgery if the doctors said it was routine. Ryan had told him routine just meant the doctors had practiced it 1,000 times. Noah had nodded like he wanted to be brave enough for both of them. Then he had slipped the green plastic dinosaur into Ryan's palm and said, "Take this so nothing dumb happens." Ryan had smiled at that, because kids always found the cleanest words for fear. Nothing dumb happens. He wished life listened. Vanessa laid the check flat on the counter and tapped it once. Where did you get this? Her tone had changed. Not softer. Sharper. Ryan knew the sound. It was the voice people used when they had moved from judging you to building a case against you. It is a legal settlement, he said. There is contact information on the issuer line. You can verify all of it. She did not pick up the phone. She studied him instead. The dry knuckles. The jacket zipper that stuck at the bottom. The 2-day shadow on his jaw. Legal settlement, she repeated, like the words belonged in quotation marks. You are telling me somebody paid you $10 million. A few feet away, the security guard by the glass doors shifted his weight and glanced over. Ryan noticed him the way he noticed exits, cameras, hands, and silence. Old habits. Buried habits, but not dead ones. I am telling you to run the verification, Ryan said. That is your job. Vanessa leaned back slightly, offended by the calm in his voice. My job is also to protect this bank from fraud. Another buzz from the phone. Then another. Ryan finally took it out and saw the hospital number glowing on the screen. His chest tightened, but before he could answer, Vanessa spoke louder, making sure the people in line heard every word. If your story is real, Mr. Whitaker, then you will not mind waiting while we involve branch security. Ryan looked at the missed call, then at the woman holding the only piece of paper standing between his son and one less thing to worry about, and something cold settled into place behind his ribs. Because now it was no longer just delay. It was power. And Vanessa Cole was enjoying every second of it. The security guard approached without rushing, which somehow made it worse. He was a broad man in his 50s with a silver badge that read Martin Reeves, and the look in his eyes said he did not fully agree with what was happening, but he was still going to follow the chain of command. Vanessa folded her arms and nodded toward Ryan like she had already solved the case. Sir, I am going to need you to step away from the counter while we review this document. Ryan did not move right away. Not because he wanted a scene. Because every second felt expensive now. The hospital had already called twice. Noah was probably asking where his father was. Somewhere across town, nurses were checking charts, adjusting blankets, saying calm things in calm voices while his son stared at ceiling tiles and waited for the one person who had promised to come back before lunch. Ryan swallowed and looked at Martin instead of Vanessa. I am not refusing to cooperate, he said. But if she flags that check the wrong way, this branch creates a chain reaction you do not understand. Martin frowned slightly. Vanessa gave a short laugh. Listen to that. Now he is giving legal warnings. Ryan turned his eyes back to her. No. I am giving you a chance to stop making this worse. That should have slowed her down. It should have made someone ask why a tired man in work boots sounded less panicked than the person accusing him. But humiliation is a strange kind of fuel. Once people start performing certainty in front of an audience, they would rather drive off a cliff than tap the brakes. Vanessa lifted the check again and held it toward the overhead lights as if fraud could be seen in the paper itself. You walk in here from West Hollow Apartments with $10 million and expect me to believe this is normal? Ryan felt every eye in the lobby land on him again. The businessman near the rope divider. The older couple by the brochure rack. The young teller pretending not to listen. He had lived through rooms like this before, rooms where decisions were made about him by people who thought appearance was evidence. Years ago, he had learned that the most dangerous person in any system was not the loud one. It was the polished one who could turn contempt into procedure. His phone buzzed again. This time a text flashed across the screen before it dimmed. Pre-op moved up. Please call. For 1 second, the bank disappeared. The marble floor, the soft music, Vanessa's sharpened voice, all of it dropped away, and there was only Noah in a hospital bed trying not to be afraid alone. Ryan looked down at the torn edge of his own thumbnail, then back up, and his voice came out quieter than before. I need that check verified now. Vanessa's mouth hardened. What you need, Mr. Whitaker, is to stop pretending you belong in this branch. And in that instant, Ryan understood the real problem. She was not trying to verify the truth. She was trying to defend the version of the world that made people like him impossible. Vanessa Cole smiled then, and Ryan knew that smile. It was the kind that only appeared when someone believed the room had already chosen sides. Martin Reeves stayed near his shoulder, not touching him, not pushing, just close enough to make the message clear. The branch manager still held the check between her fingers like it was contaminated. I am going to document this as an attempted fraudulent deposit, she said, her voice crisp and loud enough to drift across the marble lobby. And if you continue to interfere, I will have you removed. Ryan looked at her for a long second, then slowly set both hands flat on the counter so everyone could see them. He did that for Martin, not for her. He knew how quickly harmless men got rewritten into dangerous ones once people in authority needed the story to bend their way. I am not interfering, he said. I am asking you to verify the issuer before you make a mistake your legal department cannot contain. The words landed harder on Martin than on Vanessa. Ryan saw it in the slight tightening near the guard's eyes. A person who had spent years around ordinary complaints could still hear the difference between bluff and warning. Vanessa heard it too, but only as a challenge. She leaned forward, red nails pressing lightly into the edge of the paper. You keep talking like someone who thinks he understands this industry. Ryan almost answered that he used to understand it better than most of the people running it. Instead he said, I understand enough to know that if this gets coded wrong, it does not stop at this desk. Another buzz lit up his phone. Then a voicemail notification. Then a text from the hospital. Nurse asking for you. Pre-op moving faster. His throat tightened so suddenly he had to look away from the screen. Across town, Noah was waiting in a pale blue gown, feet not touching the floor, trying to be brave because that was what sick children learn to do when they loved their parents too much. Ryan could picture the freckle near his son's left eyebrow, the way he pressed his lips together when he was frightened, the way he had whispered that morning, "You are coming back before they roll me in, right?" Ryan had said yes. He had said it without hesitation, because fathers were allowed to lie only when the truth would scare a child too early. He looked back up, and whatever Vanessa expected to see in his face, it was not what she found. He was not begging. He was not angry. He was measuring her. That unsettled her more than protest ever could. Last chance, she said. Tell me where you stole this. A few people in line gave her the kind of silence that passes for agreement in public places. Ryan stared at the check, then at the polished counter, then at Vanessa. I earned it, he said quietly. And that is exactly why you cannot imagine it belongs to me. For the first time, the young teller near Station 3 stopped pretending not to listen. Martin shifted again. Something in the air changed, small but real, the way it does before a storm reaches a house that still thinks it has time. Vanessa should have called the issuer. That was the clean way. That was the professional way. But by then this was no longer about procedure. It was about pride. Ryan saw it settle over her face like a second layer of makeup, something smooth and practiced that hid the small flicker of doubt he had finally put there. She turned slightly toward the teller stations and raised the check just enough for everyone nearby to see. A forged instrument does not become legitimate because the person holding it stays calm, she said. Ryan heard a few faint breaths, the sound people make when they are relieved someone else is being judged instead of them. His phone lit again. This time it was not the hospital main number. It was a direct message from Noah's nurse. Please call. They are prepping him now. For 1 second Ryan felt the floor tilt under him. He imagined Noah on the edge of that bed with his socks too big and his knees knocking together, trying not to ask where his father was because brave children always think waiting quietly helps. Ryan slipped the phone back into his pocket without answering. If he heard his son's voice right now, the control he had held onto all morning might crack in the wrong place. Vanessa misread the motion immediately. Hiding your phone now? She asked. That usually means somebody does not want records checked. Ryan exhaled once through his nose. That phone is my son's hospital. The words were simple, but they landed in the room with a weight that did not belong to banking at all. The young teller at Station 3 looked down. Martin Reeves glanced toward the phone in Ryan's hand, then back at Vanessa, and for the first time his silence looked less certain. Vanessa did not soften. If anything, she seemed irritated that a human detail had entered the story she was trying to control. Everyone has an excuse when they are caught, she said. Ryan stared at her, and something old and unwelcome stirred in him. Not anger exactly. Recognition. He had sat in rooms years earlier where polished people had dismissed inconvenient truths because believing them would have forced change. He remembered conference tables, sealed reports, quiet voices saying let us be careful before we overreact. He remembered the cost of that kind of caution landing on other people's lives. "I am going to say this one more time," he said. "Run the verification. Call the issuer. Do not label that check before you know what it is." Martin shifted his stance. The teller at Station 3 finally spoke, softly, almost apologetically. "Ms. Cole, maybe we should just contact the remittance office first." Vanessa turned to the young woman with such cold surprise that the girl immediately went still again. Then Vanessa looked back at Ryan, and the thin smile returned. "No," she said. "What we are going to do is end this." And Ryan understood, with a clarity that made his chest go cold, that she would rather break the right thing than admit she had judged the wrong man. Vanessa moved before anyone could stop her. It was a small motion, almost neat, the kind that looked harmless until it was too late to take back. She gripped the check at both ends, her face calm in that polished way people use when they want cruelty to look like policy, and tore it straight through the middle. The sound was soft. That was the worst part. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just paper giving way while an entire lobby watched a man lose something he had spent years paying for in ways no one there could see. The teller at Station 3 gasped. Martin Reeves took one step forward and stopped, like even he had not believed she would go that far. Half the check fluttered down against the marble counter. The other half stayed in Vanessa's hand for a breath longer before she let it fall too. Ryan did not move. He looked at the torn pieces, then at Vanessa, and the expression on his face changed so slightly most people would have missed it. The humiliation was still there, yes, but underneath it was something colder now, something that did not belong to a tired drywall worker from West Hollow Apartments. His phone buzzed again in his pocket. He did not reach for it. He was suddenly very still, the way some men get when anger has burned past heat and hardened into precision. Vanessa mistook that silence for defeat. "Now," she said, brushing invisible dust from her fingers, "you are done here." Ryan finally looked down and picked up one torn half of the check with careful hands. Then he lifted his eyes to hers. "You just destroyed an instrument under legal hold," he said quietly. "And you did it on camera." The young teller went pale. Martin turned his head toward the security dome above the lobby doors without even meaning to. For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed Vanessa's face, quick as a shadow moving over glass. But she recovered fast. People like her always did. "That document was fraudulent," she said. "Then you should have verified that before destroying evidence," Ryan replied. His voice was not loud, yet every person in the lobby heard it. The businessman near the rope divider lowered his phone. The older woman by the brochure stand stared at Vanessa now instead of Ryan. Something had shifted. Just enough to make the room uncomfortable. Ryan took his phone out at last and saw 3 missed calls from the hospital, plus one message that made the edges of the world narrow around him. "They are asking for parental sign-off now." He closed his eyes for 1 second. Noah was waiting. Noah was scared. And here he was, standing under chandelier light while a woman in a tailored navy suit had just torn apart the one thing meant to buy his son peace before surgery. When Ryan opened his eyes again, the old version of him was a little closer to the surface. "Call whoever you need," he said. "Because in about 5 minutes, this branch is going to wish you had listened when I was still being polite." For one suspended second, nobody moved. Then the branch changed shape around Ryan Whittaker the way rooms always do when power begins to slip from the wrong hands. Vanessa Cole still stood behind the counter, chin lifted, but the certainty in her posture had started to crack. Martin Reeves looked from the torn check on the marble floor to the security camera above the lobby doors, and this time he did not hide what he was thinking. The teller at Station 3 had gone completely still, both hands frozen over her keyboard, as if any sound she made might place her on the wrong side of what had just happened. Ryan bent, picked up the second half of the check, and aligned the edges with the first. He did it with the care of a man used to protecting damaged things. Then he slid both pieces into the envelope they had come in. His phone rang again. St. Jude Wing. He answered this one. Mr. Whitaker, the nurse said, keeping her voice professional but moving too fast to be casual, we need your authorization in person as soon as possible. They are moving Noah into pre-op now. Ryan turned slightly away from the counter, pressed one hand over his eyes for half a second, and said, I am on my way. He ended the call and looked back at Vanessa. You have exactly one chance left to fix this before someone above you gets involved. Vanessa laughed, but it came out thinner now. Do not threaten me in my own branch. Ryan's face did not change. This stopped being your branch the second you tore that check. Martin drew a slow breath. Ms. Cole, he said carefully, maybe we should contact regional risk before we do anything else. She snapped her head toward him. Absolutely not. That answer told Ryan more than anything else had. Not because it was stubborn. Because it was afraid. Old instincts he had spent years burying rose in him with uncomfortable ease. He looked past Vanessa toward the monitor mounted behind the teller line, where internal routing alerts rolled quietly in the corner of the screen. He recognized the interface version in less than a second. That was impossible for a drywall worker from West Hollow Apartments. Martin saw Ryan's eyes settle there and noticed the change in him, the way a man notices another man stop enduring a system and start reading it. You flagged nothing, Ryan said softly. You did not even run level 1 validation. You went straight to narrative control. Vanessa stared at him. Martin frowned. The young teller looked up. Ryan took one step closer to the counter, not aggressive, just certain. And if I am right, he said, the moment Regional sees this camera footage and your missing verification trail, they are not just going to ask why you tore my check. He paused, then looked straight at Vanessa. They are going to ask what else this branch has been hiding. The room went quiet in the precise way expensive places do when people realize the wrong person may have been in charge. Vanessa Cole opened her mouth, then closed it again, and Ryan saw the moment calculation replaced confidence. Martin Reeves was no longer looking at Ryan like a man about to escort someone out. He was looking at the branch manager, at the cameras, at the teller logs, at everything that would still exist after this morning was over. You are out of line, Vanessa said finally, but the force had drained from her voice. Ryan slipped the envelope with the torn check halves under his arm and glanced once at the internal monitor behind her. No, he said. I am exactly in line. You are the one who skipped it. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Calm frightened people more when they had been expecting panic. Martin stepped closer to the counter, not to Ryan this time, but to the terminal Vanessa had been using. Ms. Cole, he said, careful and formal now, did you open a level 1 verification ticket? Vanessa did not answer fast enough. That was answer enough. The teller at Station 3 looked between them, then whispered, the issuer field never got scanned. Vanessa shot her a look sharp enough to cut glass, but the damage was already done. Ryan felt the old part of his mind click fully awake, the part he had spent years burying under rent payments, hospital visits, and school lunch notes. Systems had patterns. Fear had patterns too. And Vanessa's fear was no longer about him. It was about exposure. Pull the audit trail, Ryan said. Martin hesitated. You do not work here. Ryan met his eyes. No. But I know exactly what a missing validation trail means when a branch manager is more focused on controlling a story than checking a document. Martin looked at the screen, then at Vanessa, then reached for the keyboard. Do not touch that, Vanessa snapped. Too fast. Too loud. Across the lobby, even the businessman near the rope divider stopped pretending this was none of his business. Martin froze for one beat, then straightened. I think I need to call regional risk. Vanessa took a breath like she was about to stop him, and then every phone at the teller line gave the same soft internal chime. A priority call had dropped into the system. The nearest screen flashed a name across the top. Helena Pierce. Executive Risk Director. Vanessa went pale in a way makeup could not hide. Martin stared at the screen. The teller at Station 3 actually stepped back. Ryan did not smile. He only checked the time, thought of Noah waiting in pre-op, and felt the terrible shape of this morning sharpening into something bigger than humiliation. Then Martin answered the call, listened for 2 seconds, and his posture changed completely. He turned toward Ryan first, not Vanessa, and said in a voice that made the whole lobby still, "Sir, Miss Pierce is on her way down right now." Helena Pierce arrived so fast it felt like the building had been expecting her all along. She walked through the glass doors in a charcoal coat, one hand holding her phone, the other carrying the kind of authority that made every employee in the branch stand straighter without being told. She did not look at Vanessa first. She looked at Martin. Then at the teller line. Then at Ryan Whitaker, still holding the envelope with the torn check inside, work boots planted on polished marble like he had been dragged into the wrong world and refused to bow to it. "Who tore it?" Helena asked. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just clearly enough that no one in the room could pretend not to hear. Vanessa stepped forward and started to speak, but Helena raised one hand and the whole branch went quiet again. Martin answered instead. "She did." Helena's eyes moved to Vanessa then, and for the first time that morning, Ryan saw a powerful woman whose coldness had a purpose. Not vanity. Not ego. Precision. "Do not say another word until legal is on the line," Helena said. Then she turned to Ryan, and something unreadable passed across her face. Recognition, maybe. Or memory. "Sir," she said, and the word landed harder than the tearing of the check had. Vanessa went white. The teller at Station 3 looked like she might stop breathing. Ryan did not react much on the outside, but inside, an older life had already started opening doors he had spent years trying to seal shut. Helena asked for the envelope. Ryan did not hand it over immediately. Their eyes held for a beat too long, and in that beat she seemed to understand something important. He was not protecting money. He was protecting time. Time before Noah went into surgery. Time before another system turned his life into paperwork. Time before the truth started costing more than he could pay. "My son is at St. Jude," Ryan said. "I need to leave." Helena nodded once, sharp and immediate. "You will." Then she looked back at the terminal, at the frozen screens, at Vanessa, at the branch itself, as if she could already see the whole ugly chain hiding beneath one ripped piece of paper. "But if Mr. Whitaker walks out right now," she said quietly, "this branch may not survive what comes next." Ryan checked his phone. A new message from the hospital waited there. "They are ready." Another from an unknown number appeared a second later. "Do not let her pull the old files." He stared at the screen, and for the first time all morning, the question was no longer whether Vanessa had made a terrible mistake. The question was who was really afraid of Ryan being seen for who he was. So what would you do if you were him? Run to your son and let the truth stay buried for one more day, or stay long enough to expose a machine that may have been built to crush men exactly like you? And if Helena Pierce already knew his name before she called him sir, then what else had she been hiding too?